Are we ready for a new world order?
Today is the first full day of the New World Order.
Lead in shaping a new world order.
We've got to accept that this is the New World Order.
Hi everyone, just a little preface before we get going. I've been sitting on this video for about 6 weeks and it's been a nervous journey. Not because I'm scared for the future, but because I'm nervous about how this video is going to be perceived or received. I had to wait about 6 weeks for all the facts to come in, for all of the Trump appointments to be made, and I have a lot of concerns. I'm overall pleased that Trump has been made president, but there are many, many issues that a lot of Trump loyalists won't want to hear. And if that's you, I pray for your patience. I ask for your open-mindedness and enjoy the rest of this video. Hello everyone, this is Leonard Ulrich with a much-needed New World Order report, which explores the areas where secret societies, history, and Bible prophecy meet. Please share this video with people you care about, as YouTube repeatedly unsubscribes people from this shadow banned channel and will never let it grow beyond 25,000 subscribers. Before we get started, Jay Anderson, if you are watching this, please get a hold of me at lulrich@nts.net. I've been trying to get in touch with you, and I have something for you. First, an update on my third feature film, COVID-19 Beyond Human. I didn't quite finish writing the script to Volume 3 yet because the reading list for my third film has taken me in valuable directions, as you will see in this video. The good news is that the most difficult part of making my feature films is more than halfway done. Because I am not as far along in this project as I would like, I have decided that Volume 3 will not be entered into the Winnipeg Reel-to-Reel Film Festival in February 2025. This is the most important film I have ever made, and it should not be rushed. That may be disappointing to some of you, but I have thought and prayed about it, and I am now convinced that this is for the best. Don't worry, the film will be released on the internet this winter. After plowing a lot of money into equipment for Volume 3 and every video I make from 2024 onwards, including this one, I'm starting to ship out DVDs to my supporters as promised. Once that is done, DVDs will be publicly available through my website, nwotruth.org. The profits from DVD sales will then be reinvested back into advertisement for Volume 3 on a local Christian radio station when it plays in the Winnipeg Reel-to-Reel Film Festival, which has seen a gate attendance of nearly 6,000. More good news came to us this summer through Robert F. Kennedy's X feed, where he notes that 5 states, Texas, Utah, Kansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, are suing Pfizer for knowing and concealing the vaccine causing myocarditis, pericarditis, failed pregnancies, and deaths. That's 10% of U.S. states. The tide is turning. And now for the opening course. I am glad that the books I've been reading for Volume 3 have taken the film in a completely different direction once again. The most valuable book in my reading list has been Belgian psychologist Matthias Desmet's The Psychology of Totalitarianism, because it has taught me one thing: that facts always take a back seat to feelings, especially when people have been professionally propagandized and or exposed to a scientifically crafted fear campaign. I spent 3 years gathering all kinds of facts for my third film, and now realize that facts are less effective at proving to someone that COVID-19 was planned and controlled through a program of psychological warfare. You can show a healthcare professional one peer-reviewed study after another, clearly showing how resistance to COVID-19 decreased as the number of shots increased, but they will only dispute study methodologies. You can show a healthcare professional a clip of local healthcare officials stating on a government-funded television channel that adverse events surrounding COVID-19 are higher after vaccination for COVID-19, but they will only dispute the authority of this official instead. They are too professionally propagandized.
This slide is showing the proportion of breakthrough cases in the province that are experienced by First Nations people. Keeping in mind that we make up roughly 10% of the population, what we can see is that the proportion among breakthrough cases, hospitalizations, ICU outcomes, and fatalities remains higher after vaccination.
The Telegraph newspaper in the UK published an article on March 4th, 2023, which detailed this fear campaign, which was literally called Project Fear. If you ever wanted an example of what maximum fear porn looks like, it would look like this. The assumption behind this government-sponsored ad is that everyone who gets COVID-19 will end up like this. Leaked WhatsApp messages from former UK Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Matt Hancock, literally stated that he wanted to frighten the pants off the public about COVID-19. What is even worse than this is when the same Matt Hancock asked his predecessor via WhatsApp, "When do we deploy the new COVID variant?" And some Christians that I care about will still tell me that they are praying for my mental and spiritual health if I tell them that COVID-19 was planned, controlled, and that the threat that did exist because they engineered it was not as advertised. This is especially true when the very people who locked the UK down had at least a dozen drunken parties at number 10 Downing Street. The very people who imposed social distancing on the UK, like the leader of the House of Commons, Jacob Rees-Mogg, joked about social distancing rules at a Christmas party in December 2021.
I see we're all here obeying regulations, aren't we? I mean, this party is not going to be investigated by the police in a year's time. You are all very carefully socially distanced. We've moved, I'm pleased to tell you, from the metric back to the imperial system. I know you were at least 2 inches of regulation, which is, as I understand it, what the regulations require during the social distancing period.
Focusing on the hypocritical COVID-19 psychological warmongers is far more effective than presenting any data set, especially when we realize that COVID-19 was all about advancing the long-term agenda of transhumanism. With that in mind, I'd like to read 4 excerpts from the book The Psychology of Totalitarianism by Belgian psychologist Matthias Desmet, who came up with the concept of mass formation psychosis. Just before we do that, I'd like to show you a clip of Dr. Robert Malone, who is the co-inventor of mRNA technology, explaining what mass formation psychosis is.
When you have a society that has become decoupled from each other and has free-floating anxiety in a sense that things don't make sense, we can't understand it, and then their attention gets focused by a leader or a series of events on one small point, just like hypnosis, they literally become hypnotized and can be led anywhere. And one of the aspects of that phenomena is the people that they identify as their leaders, the ones typically that come in and say, you have this pain and I can solve it for you. I and I alone, okay, can fix this problem for you. Okay, then they will follow that person through. It doesn't matter whether they lie to him or whatever. The data are irrelevant. And furthermore, anybody who questions that narrative is to be immediately attacked. They are the other. This is central to mass formation psychosis. And this is what has happened. We had all those conditions. If you remember back before 2019, everybody was complaining, the world doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. And we're all isolated from each other. We're all on our little tools. We're not connected socially anymore, except through social media. And then this thing happened and everybody focused on it. That is how mass formation psychosis happens. And that is what's happened here. Now, there's ways to get out of it. Matthias's recommendation is you got to get people to realize that what we've got is a situation of global totalitarianism. In his experience in Europe, making people realize there's a bigger threat than the virus can cause a separation psychologically in this fusion, this hypnosis that has happened. The problem is then you're just substituting a bigger boogeyman for the current one, and somebody else can come in and manipulate that. The real problem, and it gets back to your core point, we're sick as a society, and we have to heal ourselves. And one of the things we have to do is come together. We have to recreate our social bonds. We have to buy into integrity, the importance of human dignity, and the importance of community.
I'm going to call this section, Welcome to the Animal Farm. These experts did not live up to their promises. These experts pledged that the gates to freedom would reopen after 2 doses of the vaccine, but when the time came, things didn't change and they came up with the need for the 3rd. And, just like Orwell's pigs, they sometimes change the rules overnight, inconspicuously. First, the animals had to comply with the measures because the number of sick people could not exceed the capacity of the healthcare system, as in flatten the curve. But one day, everyone woke up to discover writing on the walls stating that the measures were being extended because the virus had to be eradicated, as in crush the curve. Eventually, the rules changed so often that only the pigs seemed to know them. And even that was not so sure. Some people became suspicious. How is it possible that these experts made mistakes that even laymen wouldn't make? Aren't they scientists, the kind of people who took us to the moon and gave us the internet? They can't be that stupid, can they? What is the end game? Their recommendations take us further down the road in the same direction. With each new step, we lose more of our freedoms until we reach a final destination where human beings are reduced to QR codes on a large technocratic medical experiment. That's how most people eventually became certain. Very certain. Yet of the most opposing things. Some people were convinced that we were dealing with a killer virus, others that it was nothing more than the seasonal flu, and still others believed that the virus did not even exist and that we were dealing with a worldwide conspiracy. And there were also a few who continued to tolerate uncertainty and kept asking ourselves, how can we adequately understand what is going on in society? I'm going to call this section the ICU bed strain. The ICUs are clearly overloaded by COVID-19 patients, aren't they? That's correct. But the way in which we should interpret this fact is another question. Rather than an indication of COVID-19's exceptional danger, the overload seems to be the result of 2 colliding trends over recent decades. 1, a sharp rise in susceptibility to developing serious symptoms in viral lung diseases in a major part of the population, especially people suffering from obesity and diabetes, and 2, systematic reduction in ICU beds. The upcoming trend in the number of patients at risk and the downward trend in the number of ICU beds inevitably had to cross sooner or later. As a matter of fact, this intersection occurred years ago, long before the coronavirus outbreak. The ICU overload has also occurred during recent flu epidemics, for example, resulting in delayed treatments and procedures during those times as well. And yet, another remarkable fact. While the limited capacity of the ICUs was the first and main reason for the introduction of the drastic and, from an economic and psychological point of view, extremely destructive measures, no additional ICU beds were created during the crisis. There were no attempts whatsoever to do so. As with individuals, societies also seem to derive some disease gain from their psychological symptoms and therefore angle to maintain those symptoms. I like to call this section the relativity of numbers. Everyone can select numbers that match their own prejudices. Everyone can interpret them in such a way that they support their subjective ideological fiction. The almost irresistible illusion that numbers represent facts ensures that people become increasingly convinced that their own fiction is reality. The use of numbers in this crisis makes us barely realize that what we do respond to are not so much the facts, but the stories constructed around facts. Those stories are spun by healthcare workers who genuinely do their best to help, by people who don't want to see their families suffer, by politicians who want to make the right decisions, by academics who want to provide information as objectively as possible. However, they are also constructed by politicians who are under the pressure of public opinion and feel compelled to act decisively, by leaders who have lost control and see their opportunity to take back the reins, by experts who have had to hide their ignorance, by academics who see a chance to assert themselves, by man's inherent propensity for hysteria and drama, by pharmaceutical companies that smell dollar bills, by media that thrive on sensational stories, by ideologies that see in a technocratic totalitarian system the only solution to the seemingly insoluble problems of our time. How is it possible for researchers to fall prey to their subjective prejudices? The explanation can be found, in part, among the following issues. Every research procedure requires countless choices for which there are no strictly logical grounds. Which measuring instruments will I use? How will I interpret the measurements? How do I deal with missing data? And so on. From this vast array of possibilities, researchers unconsciously choose options that will ensure the results they seem desirable. The fanatical belief in the objectivity of measurements and numbers, which is typical of the mechanistic ideology, is not only unfounded, it is also dangerous. There arises a kind of mutual reinforcement between subjective biases and numbers. The stronger the biases, the more one selects the numbers that confirm these biases. And the more the numbers confirm their biases, the stronger the biases subsequently become. Applied to the coronavirus crisis, a society saturated with fear and unease selects from the myriad of numbers those that can confirm its fear. The chosen numbers then reinforce the fear. As a result, people react in a disproportionate way, with all the ensuing consequences. From an economic viewpoint, the recession and the bankruptcy of countless companies and small businesses. From a social viewpoint, permanent damage to the physical bond among people. From a psychological viewpoint, even more fear and depression. And yes, from a physical viewpoint, a collapse of immunity and physical health as a result of the stressful psychological and social predicament. And we might add, from a political viewpoint, the rise of the totalitarian state. Indeed, if you're convinced that your own subjective fiction is reality, you will also think your reality is superior to the fiction of others. This is how we become convinced that our fiction can be imposed upon the other by any possible means. And now for the main course, the Trump deception. Many of you are going to hate me for what I'm about to say, but it needs to be said. While everyone is celebrating Trump's alleged victory over the deep state with the biggest red wave in 40 years, I'm greatly concerned. The current top 5 threats to humanity as I see it are big finance, big biotech, big government, Zionism, and the military-industrial complex. These forces simultaneously cooperate and compete with each other for their own self-interests as they strive to be on top of the New World Order. In order to understand how this works, I need to read 2 short quotations from a book called Tragedy and Hope. This heavy read of over 1,300 pages was written decades ago by Georgetown history professor Carroll Quigley. We should pay attention to what he wrote because he publicized how the Council on Foreign Relations influences the world and taught Bill Clinton everything he needed to know about real history.
As a teenager, I heard John Kennedy's summons to citizenship. And then as a student at Georgetown, I heard that call clarified by a professor named Carroll Quigley, who said to us that America was the greatest nation in history because our people had always believed in 2 things: that tomorrow can be better than today, and that every one of us has a personal moral responsibility to make it so.
The argument that the 2 parties should represent opposed ideals and policies, one perhaps of the right and the other of the left, is a foolish idea acceptable only to doctrinaire and academic thinkers. Instead, the 2 parties should be almost identical so that the American people can throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy. The powers of financial capitalism had another far-reaching aim, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This system was to be controlled in a feudalistic fashion by the central banks of the world acting in concert by secret agreements arrived at in frequent meetings and conferences. The apex of the systems was to be the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, a private bank owned and controlled by the world's central banks, which were themselves private corporations. Each central bank sought to dominate its government by its ability to control treasury loans, to manipulate foreign exchanges, to influence the level of economic activity in the country, and to influence cooperative politicians by subsequent economic rewards in the business world. With those 2 quotations of politics and money in our minds, we are now able to see who Trump really is. Trump, like any high-level politician, is a movie screen onto which we project our hopes and dreams. As such, most people are unable to see candidates for who they really are. Trump has been groomed to be a president for decades by people who are much more powerful than he is. All the way back in November 1985, it was revealed to the world that Donald Trump's ultimate deal was to be a peace treaty and that he was working at a high level with the Reagan White House to make this happen. In December 2016, we learn that Wilbur Ross saved Trump from the bankruptcy of his casino empire. Wilbur Ross, who worked for Rothschild Incorporated, became Trump's Secretary of Commerce. At this point, you might think that I'm a Kamala lover. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you paid attention to the quote on politics from Carol Quigley, you would know that high-level politics is a lot like a WWE wrestling match, and Donald Trump would know a thing or two about that. You have the illusion of a contest, but in the end, the contestants are involved in making money together in the theater production. Donald Trump was selected to become president, then selected to lose the presidency to make him into an embattled saint, and then selected to win the presidency again over the empty vessel of Kamala Harris. Harris was installed to replace the useful idiot known as Joe Biden, who became a useless idiot because of his advanced dementia, which was denied for years. It is not for me to determine whether Donald Trump is a Christian. All I will do here is to show you what Trump says about his own faith.
So we've got people lined up for questions. I just got one more, because you used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church and I love God and I love my church. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale, was my pastor. The Power of Positive Thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great. He would give a sermon you never wanted to leave. Sometimes we have sermons, and every once in a while we think about leaving a little early, right, even though we're Christian. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Frank, would give a sermon. I'm telling you, I still remember his sermons. It was unbelievable. And what he would do is he'd bring real-life situations, modern-day situations, into the sermon. And you could listen to him all day long. When you left the church, you were disappointed that it was over. He was the greatest guy. And then, you know, he passed away, but he was a great... He wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is a great book.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed, okay? But, to me, that's important. I do that. But in terms of officially, I could say absolutely, and everybody, I don't think in terms of that.
When one takes a closer examination of Trump's faith, it instantly falls apart. Things only get worse from here.
And we're going to protect Christianity. And I can say that. I don't have to be politically correct. We're going to protect it. And I asked Jerry and I asked some of the folks, because I hear this is a major theme right here, but 2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17, that's the whole ball game. Where the Spirit of the Lord, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And here there is Liberty College, but Liberty University. But it is so true. When you think, and that's really, is that the one? Is that the one you like? I think that's the one you like, because I loved it. And it's so representative of what's taken place. But we are going to protect Christianity. And if you look what's going on throughout the world, you look at Syria, where if you're Christian, they're chopping off heads. You look at the different places, and Christianity, it's under siege.
One of the potential attack lines has to do with an answer you gave to Frank Luntz months ago when you said that you've never asked God for forgiveness. Do you regret making that remark?
No, I have great relationship with God. I have great relationship with the evangelicals. In fact, nationwide, I'm up by a lot. I'm leading everybody.
But I like to be good. I don't like to have to ask for forgiveness, and I am good. I don't do a lot of things that are bad. I try and do nothing that's bad. I live a very different life than probably a lot of people would think. And I have a very great relationship with God, and I have a very great relationship with evangelicals, and I think that's why I'm doing so well with Iowa.
So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning. Masks, no masks, everything, you can do all you want, but you know, you still need help from the boss. We need help from the boss. That's what happened. We need help. Right? Yeah, we need help. It's all right to say it. Now, they'll criticize me for that. How dare he say that? How dare he say that? No, I'll say it. I'll say it. I'll say it. Somebody said to me the other day, you're the most famous person in the world by far. I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. They said, yes, you are. I said, no. They said, who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ. But as I look back at my life's journey and events, I now recognize that it's been the hand of God leading me to where I am today. Thank you. And my faith took on new meaning on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, where I was knocked to the ground, essentially, by what seemed like a supernatural hand. And I would like to think that God saved me for a purpose, and that's to make our country greater than ever before. What crap. The only thing I asked for is a mic. You don't have to give me, I don't even need a stage. I don't give a damn. Give me a good mic. And I went through 2 of these today. And it knocks the hell out of your throat. But so far I'm doing okay, right? Okay. Is that better? Yeah. And did you notice I came in today, I said, and you know, this is after 4 of these things. I've been, in all fairness, I mean, I'm a human being, right? I come in, and here's the problem. I said, oh man, it's too low. I said, it's too low. So, I had to go. Way too low. Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
The occult influence on the Trump administration doesn't end with Trump. General Michael Flynn will probably have some role in the new presidency. Unless you have studied the occult, you wouldn't know that General Flynn led a prayer that was absolutely deceptive. I'm now going to contrast Flynn's prayer in 2021 with sorceress Elizabeth Clare's channeling session in 1984.
We are your instrument of those 7-fold rays and all your archangels, all of them.
I am here, O God, and I am the instrument of those 7-fold rays and archangels.
We will not retreat. We will not retreat. We will stand our ground.
And I will not retreat. I will take my stand.
We will not fear to speak. We will be the instrument of your will. Whatever it is.
I will not fear to speak, and I will be the instrument of God's will, whatever it is.
In your name, and the name of your legions.
Here I am, so help me God, in the name of Archangel Michael and his legions.
We are freeborn, and we shall remain freeborn.
I am freeborn, and I shall remain freeborn.
And we shall not be enslaved by any foe, within or without.
And I shall not be enslaved by any foe, within or without.
Trump was selling God Bless the USA Bibles to fund his recent campaign. Again, this sounds okay until you realize the deception involved here.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our Founding Father documents, yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul.
I'm glad that one pastor in North Carolina had the courage to say what needs to be said.
Some of you bring politics into the church. You think that politics is spiritual stuff. Politics is of this world. You think it's your duty to be political about this, that, and the other. No, your duty is to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Don't be talking to me about my spiritual responsibility to vote. I don't have a spiritual responsibility to vote. I have a civic privilege. Don't be telling me that voting is spiritual. See, that's what happens when you don't read and pray. When you don't read and pray, you say, wow, there's a Bible out now that includes the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Isn't that wonderful? No. No, it's disgusting. It's blasphemous. It's a ploy. Are you kidding me? Some of you are so encouraged by that. Let me tell you something. The gospel is not an American gospel. It is the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. But Pastor, I bought the Bible. Really? You're telling me that you're encouraged because someone took a government, U.S. Constitution, a document that says we are of the people, by the people, and for the people, the people, the people, the people. And you have put it right beside the Word of God, which is eternal, unchanging, which says, of Him, by Him, through Him, to Him, from Him are all things, and you're going to put those together and be happy about it? God forbid. Now, you can get mad if you want to, but I'm going to tell you something. If you glory in that kind of thing, you don't have a prayer life. If you glory in that kind of mess, political mess, you do not know what the Word of God says.
Trump is not above using Christianity for political gain, nor is he above riding on the coattails of previous political campaigns. The phrase, "Make America Great Again," has simply been recycled from the Reagan administration. Trump made 3 main promises during his first term in office, and he broke every one of them. He promised to lock her up, but then blatantly did a 180 after being elected.
Donald Trump is seemingly already going back on one of his campaign promises. You'll remember he promised to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton for using a private email server that happened during one of the debates. Well, listen to what he said at one of these thank you rallies just last night.
That plays great before the election. Nah, we don't care.
Yeah, if you couldn't really decipher that, there were chants of lock her up from the audience, and he said, "No, we don't care." That was before the election.
And why not? The Clintons were at Trump's third wedding, and Ivanka and Chelsea are BFFs. Trump promised to build the wall, but precious little got built. I hope you realize that the only border wall that Trump is going to complete is a digital biometric wall, and that you'll be banging your head against this wall constantly.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens, never happens. Hillary Clinton, all talk. Unfortunately, when there is action, it's always the wrong decision. Do you ever notice? In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
He also promised to bring them home, but no troops were brought home from the Middle East. The one main promise that Trump has delivered on is Operation Warp Speed. This is ironic because Trump has praised the experimental gene therapy injections at the center of this military operation to this day, long after they have been proven to be ineffective and disliked by his voter base.
We got a vaccine done in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take from 5 to 12 years. Because of that vaccine, millions and millions of people, I think this would have been the Spanish flu of 1917, where up to 100 million people died. This was going to ravage the country far beyond what it is right now. Take credit for it. Take credit for it. It's a great, what we've done is historic. Don't let them take it away. Don't take it away from ourselves. You're playing right into their hands.
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. That's all. It's a very tiny group.
Trump's broken promises reveal much about his character. Besides the pressure to satisfy our immediate needs of food, water, shelter, and clothing, there are 3 temptations that are common to any man: money, power, sex, and ego. Donald Trump fails in all 4 of these categories, especially with women. The fact that he is on his 3rd marriage says a lot, and his 3rd marriage is troublesome. Notorious pedophile, financier, and government double agent Jeff Epstein bragged about how he set up struggling model Melania with Trump at the Kit Kat Club owned by Ghislaine Maxwell. Trump's relationship with Epstein was so close that Epstein had a lot to say about Trump.
He is charming. He is able to convince people. So he tells everybody what they want to hear.
So how do you know this?
That supposed to straight.
He has a sense of humor. He can be funny.
He's great. His ability to sell. It's very much like Clinton. Both Bill and Donald have the ability to go over to a fat, ugly woman, say, "You are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." So you probably know he had a scalp reduction. Because he had the same male pattern woman that we all have. He's a horrible human being. He does nasty things to his best friends' wives. Anyone who first tries to gain your trust and then uses it to do bad things. That's how it goes.
I must address the subject of Zionism at this point. Zionism is Jewish supremacism. Not all Jews are Zionists, and not all Zionists are Jews. Zionism is both political and religious. Zionism feeds off Jews in the same way that the Nazi movement fed off Germans. Zionism hides behind the accusation of anti-Semitism if you dare criticize it. This is ironic because many of the leading anti-Zionists are Jews. Zionism is the greatest enemy of the Jews since it is more than willing to suffer collateral damage to achieve its objectives.
Did the Israeli army give clearance to kill some of its own soldiers and Israeli civilians on October 7th? An investigation by Israeli newspaper Haaretz says the Israeli army ordered the Hannibal Directive in the hours after the Hamas attack last year. The Hannibal Directive is a highly controversial Israeli military protocol that aims to prevent the capture of a soldier by enemy forces at any cost, even at the expense of their lives. In the case of October 7th, Haaretz says it was used against Israeli civilians too. The Hannibal Directive was first drawn up in 1986 when 3 Israeli soldiers were captured by Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. Members of an Israeli brigade did not fire on the vehicles because the soldiers were inside. The directive was created so that this would never happen again. It stipulates the maximum use of force by the Israeli army in the event of a kidnapping. It allows the opening of indiscriminate fire at abductors and Israeli soldiers being abducted. The Haaretz investigation into October 7th is based on the testimonies of soldiers and senior army officials. The report mentions that the Hannibal Directive was widespread, but specifically mentions its use inside 3 army bases infiltrated by Hamas. The Israeli army even went as far as dispatching an unmanned assault drone onto one base. But it wasn't just army bases. The Israeli army allegedly issued an order that not a single vehicle can return to Gaza sometime on October 7th, and fired mortars targeting vehicles going towards Gaza. The vehicles would likely have been carrying captive Israeli soldiers and civilians, something which the Israeli army almost certainly knew. The death toll in Israel from the Hamas-led attacks is estimated at 1,139 people, while almost 250 people were taken captive back to Gaza. Haaretz says it doesn't know how many civilians or soldiers were targeted by their own forces, but that the data shows that many civilians were exposed to Israeli gunfire. A case that's received a lot of attention has been that of an Israeli brigadier general who apparently ordered a tank to fire shells at a house in Kibbutz Be'eri, where he knew captives were being held by Hamas. Of the 14 Israeli captives, 13 were killed.
Yitzhak Grunenbaum, a Polish Zionist during the Nazi era, said that 1 cow in Palestine is worth more than all the Jews in Poland. The most influential Zionist of the 20th century was Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who created a sect within Hasidic Judaism called Chabad Lubavitch. Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a non-believing Jew, visited Rabbi Schneerson several times because he knows that doing so would increase his political profile.
הכנראה שאם מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר כמה שעות בגיל עדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום, ובשורות טובות. יש שמחה וטוב לבו. אתה יודע שחסידים מקפידים שכל ימנו ימים את שמחה. בשורות טובות, הצלחה רבה.
It was obvious from their recorded conversations that Rabbi Schneerson was an end-times accelerationist. The rabbi believed that Jews must take actions to hasten the Messiah's return. Netanyahu was only happy to listen as he determined how to use this belief for political gain. Rabbi Schneerson was so satanically self-righteous that if Jesus were alive during Schneerson's time, he would have called Schneerson out just as he did the Pharisees 2,000 years ago. Schneerson taught that Jews as a whole would crown the coming Mashiach, or Messiah. Because of this and other things, Schneerson said that Jews as a whole were above God. Schneerson also taught that non-Jews didn't have a soul that existed on the same level as a Jewish soul, that non-Jews were born to serve Jews, and that anyone who worshipped idols like Christians should be killed.
Was Aid hat zugetan, hat dem Ihnen von Tamlichunia Aleichem, und durch wird der Rebischte Amelech al Kol Heilam, und durch wird man mit des Emosen nimmt zu Kol an Nimsoim, doch verstandig als Adover Hachi Poshut, als jeder in a viele Anoshim, a viele Noshim, a viele Tav, wie bald zugetan, der Messias, der an Kol Hanimsoim, ist doch verstandig, als wird Balabos, und jeder von allen Nimsoim, wir sind Chayev HaKoros Teda, was durch Haiden ist zugetan geworden, Kol Hanimsoim, ist doch verstandig, als wird der Remeser Balabos. Der Rebbe, mir waren Likotetzeiri, Valika Bitchibose, ist auf Drul gesagt geworden, Schluchische Lodem Kemese. Bis war nicht, wie die Gemorde sagt, dass bepasst, dass nach Hedese gedrückt geworden, die Likotetzeiro, aber Ma Kodesh Borcho, was tut damit, Kutsche Bricho, Chayach, Viyombar, Natschuni, Bonne, Natschuni. Und der Rebischter reingegeben in Niden Makeach, als sie sollen können in Azeiach sein, nicht nur der Anhoge Soelom, nur sie können nicht sein, Natschuni, Bonne.
I could prove every one of these claims with clips, but then this video would be too long. All of this has plenty to do with Trump.
May the Almighty God, who blessed our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless President Donald J. Trump, that he should be safe and successful. May all those who work with him and work to serve this nation be blessed with health, wisdom, courage, and a heart of service. In this moment of prayer, we recognize our shared duty to each other and our country. May we move forward together, seeking to build a future that reflects the will of God and his values based on the 7 Noahide laws that will unite us all together. Amen.
You have 6 billion idol worshippers who makes God angry every second of their life. Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Tibet, Nepal, Thailand, so many. India alone is 500 million. China is 2 billion. So many, 2 billion Christians, which are idol worshippers. Between Chinese, Hindus, Buddhists, and Christian, at least 6.5 billion people are idol worshippers that, according to the Torah, do not have the right to live. Idol worshipper goy, it's death penalty. Not only Jews. Even a goy who bow down to an idol, who believe in JC, deserve death penalty.
We don't do anything illegal. You cannot take us to jail. If you are not involved, please go. Shalom, my friend. We bless you.
You're my country.
You come to the United States, you can say whatever you want to say. That is a free world, yes?
You're not in the United States. You're in Israel.
I understand.
You cannot say whatever you want to say here.
Yes, you can. It's legal. It is legal to preach about Yeshua. We preach at Damascus Gate. The police said it's okay. We preach at Jaffa Gate. The police say it's okay. Please stop. I respect you. Respect me.
He doesn't have to respect you.
Huh?
He doesn't have to respect you.
That is the right thing. Are you Jewish? Do you want to honor God? That is the godly thing to do. We respect one another.
The godly thing to do is to kill you.
The godly thing is to kill me.
That's right.
Yes?
That's what the Torah says.
The Torah says to kill us.
The Torah says that people who worship idols such as yourself, when there is a Sanhedrin,
to kill us.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the Torah says.
So we know how the Jewish people feel about Christians, yes? That you discriminate against Christians.
Christians are idol worshippers.
All of his children, except for Barron, have married Jews. Ivanka converted to Judaism and married Jared Kushner. Benjamin Netanyahu once publicly stated that when he traveled to New York, he used to sleep in Jared Kushner's bed.
There's a new book that's receiving incredible worldwide reviews everywhere except, of course, in Israel, where they're calling it all BS. It's called Kushner, Inc. Kushner, Inc., as in Jared Kushner, and Jared's father. And here's part of the takeaway on this book, right? That Netanyahu is like an uncle to Jared Kushner. Has been since Jared was a little kid. Bibi Netanyahu has been visiting his house and staying with his dad and his family. When Kushner, who is now in charge, by the way, of the Middle East and Israeli policy for the Trump administration, when he was just a little tiny boy, Netanyahu would visit his dad and would actually sleep in young Jared's bed. The book also details how one of the reasons that Rex Tillerson quit the Trump administration, hated working there, was because he was being bigfooted by Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner was taking his job, taking his responsibilities, even taking his office, right? Actually, he says Jared demanded to be in charge of all things Israel. The book's author is a lady named Vicky Ward. Quite interesting. She says that her research has led her to conclude that Bibi Netanyahu is actually the Trump administration's de facto Secretary of State. De facto Secretary of State makes all important decisions related to his own country, Israel, and even beyond Israel.
Once Gazans leave Gaza, Netanyahu's never going to let them back in.
Maybe, but I'm not sure there's much left of Gaza at this point. So my sense is I would say, how do we deal with the terror threat that is there so that it cannot be a threat to Israel or to Egypt, right? I think that both sides are spending a fortune on military. I think neither side really wants to have, a terrorist organization enclaved right between them. And Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable to, if people would focus on kind of building up. It's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up.
From the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape.
Jared Kushner's Harvard yearbook indicated that he was a friend of Chabad Lubavitch. Just before he won his second term, Trump was dragged to the grave of Rabbi Schneerson. Egypt warned Israel that the October 7th attacks were going to take place. Not only did Netanyahu know of the attacks in advance, he deliberately ordered a stand down and sent soldiers to the West Bank. On top of this, Netanyahu activated the Hannibal Directive, where the IDF was authorized to kill civilians who were captured by Hamas. All of these details were planned so that the heavy wounding of Israel could be justified to finally level Gaza.
Do you believe Netanyahu deliberately propped up Hamas in Gaza all these years, funneling cash from Qatar to Hamas as a way of undermining and dividing the Palestinians and cynically preventing a two-state solution from emerging?
Yes. You are repeating what I've been saying for a long time, long before the October 7th. From day one, Netanyahu downgraded the Palestinian Authority and almost inevitably upgraded the Hamas. The fact is that Netanyahu, as I say time and again, many years before October 7th, he released more than 1,000 Hamas murderers. On top of them, Yahya Sinwar, who turned out to become afterwards the leader of Hamas and the commander of the atrocious operation, which was committed on the 7th of October.
Netanyahu quoted scripture out of context where he justified the murder of Palestinians because of the verse that says, "You must blot out the memory of Amalek."
And also in Negative Commandment 59, that there's a mitzvah and a command to wipe out from among all the descendants of Esav, descendants of Amalek, male and female, young and old. What is Amalek? Says Hasidus, Amalek represents the concept of doubt. They put a doubt into everything that you want to do. That is why they're so evil. That is Amalek. And that is why Amalek is so terrible, and it has to be totally uprooted. Therefore, God tells us we should erase their memory, and we should eradicate them from the face of the earth. So when a Jew enters into Eretz, into the land of Israel, what should he do? The first thing, appoint a king. Step 2, destroy Amalek. Who is Amalek? Amalek comes from Esav. Esav was a brother to Jacob.
Esav, who in modern day terms is really basically, certainly one of them is America. Esav became Edom, which is a nation. Edom became Rome. Instead of it being Rome, it became Christianity. Christianity, of course, ultimately became Western civilization. So Esav today is really Western civilization.
But the new Rome, the United States. But the new Rome.
Esav is Europe, the United States.
The throne of God is incomplete until we destroy Amalek.
Any nation that has that religion can be considered Esav.
The audacity, the chutzpah, to destroy Amalek and to cut off the offsprings of the nation of Amalek.
Some members of the Israeli Defense Force wear unauthorized Moshiach patches on their shoulders, along with the Greater Israel patch. The manipulated October 7th attack is being used to restore Israel's borders to their maximum historical extent, known as Greater Israel. This will obviously cause huge problems. So what does this have to do with Trump? Zionists have such a hold on Trump that he may be willing to do anything they want. Let us never forget that the Rothschilds played a direct part in the creation of Israel through the Balfour Declaration of 1917. We know that Trump moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, something that no other president has been able to do since 1948. We also know that a Jewish group has issued a temple coin comparing Trump with King Cyrus, who allowed the Jews to build their second temple. Given everything that you now know about Trump, I have to ask, is this the man who will pave the way for the rebuilding of the Jewish Third Temple?
And today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you. And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen, you don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen. That's all I know.
Donald Trump will most likely have to deal with the collapse of the US dollar in its final term. America's debt currently stands at $36 trillion, and is growing at the rate of $1 trillion every 90 days. America already spends more on the interest payments on its debt than it does on national defense, and the BRICS alliance is rapidly gaining strength. This can't go on forever, and Trump knows this. This is why Trump recently spoke at a Bitcoin conference. Just as America moved from a gold standard to an oil standard in 1971, America will most likely move from an oil standard to a carbon crypto standard during the Trump presidency. The details of this new standard are laid out in this excellent article by Whitney Webb. I suggest you read it. All of the forces of big finance, big biotech, big government, Zionism, and the military-industrial complex are coming together as the current system is about to collapse. Almost every key person that Trump has surrounded himself with comes from these 5 forces, even as some of them market themselves as techno-populists. While most Christians, conservatives, and libertarians are celebrating the Trump win, I'm saying that this is just an adjustment of the New World Order snake as it repositions itself to finally choke us out. COVID was the most recent stranglehold. Get ready for the next one, and never forget who gave us Operation Warp Speed and plunged America into $5 trillion worth of debt. This isn't a political or financial presentation. It really is a spiritual one, for there is no political or economic solution to a spiritual problem. There is no point in knowing any of this if your life isn't secured. Your life is the only thing you truly own, and the only thing that Jesus Christ died for. Every one of us has lied, stolen, and lusted, and that's just 3 of the 10 commandments. If you desire punishment for the evil people on this earth, then you must also be willing to meet the same standards, and you don't. Jesus Christ paid for all your mistakes with his own life, so you don't have to. All you have to do is confess your mistakes and accept that Jesus paid for your mistakes. Give your life to Jesus Christ. Make a commitment to follow Christ, but realize that you have to keep that commitment as you make mistakes. Following Christ is the only way to live in this life and the next. Jesus died to have a relationship with you. He will give you peace in this crazy world. Pray for Donald Trump, pray for America, pray for world peace, and pray that your life is secure in Jesus Christ.